So, I've never made a video like this before, so I have no idea if this is going to be any good. But hell with it, let's just try it. About a year or so ago, I decided to check this one album by the band Blind Guardian. I'm not going to say what album that is yet because I'll get into that later. But suffice to say, I really liked it. Like, seriously, this was an album I listened to all the time. I was going to class, when I was going to the grocery, when I was just, sitting at my desk doing homework. It was an album I just listened to all the time. But outside of that album, I don't really know any other Blind Guardian song or album. I mean, I heard a couple tracks here and there, but not full albums like with the one I heard. Well, time to change that. I'm going to listen to every single Blind Guardian album, or at least all of their studio albums, and I want you guys to be on this journey with me. With the exception of the one album, this will be a first time listening for all of them, so take my opinions on them with a grain of salt. My opinions will change on them over time. But without further ado, let's get started. You know, for a debut album, that was pretty damn good. It was not what I was expecting though. It's very much on like the speed metal, thrash metal side. If you need like examples of that, think like early Metallica, Exodus, Testament, Slayer. You know, a lot of bands from the thrash metal scene down in the Bay Area in the 1980s. One downside of that though is that the production is definitely very much like that. It's very raw, it's kind of unfocused. I couldn't hear any bass on the album until like the last two tracks. But overall, I kind of dug it. Majesty, Guardian of the Blind, Wizard's Crown, Martyr, the title track, all pretty good stuff. I got this tracks pulled up here. I must say, I was not expecting to have 3 instrumental tracks on here. I'm not complaining about it, but no, wasn't ready for that. Overall, yeah, pretty damn good. Can't wait to hear what else this band has to offer. And I thought the last album was speed metal. Holy crap, this album was fast. They took everything that made Battalions of Fear so good and just expanded upon it. The production was much better, though I still could use a bit more low end from the bass. The performances are all good. Hansi sounded incredible here. And all the songs themselves were really good as well. Banished from Sanctuary, Damned for All Time, Hall of the King, the title track, Beyond the Ice. That was a great instrumental track. Valhalla is on this album. Valhalla is like, oh my god, I'm going to listen to that song again. Hey, future Andrew here. Totally forgot to mention that Kai Hansen has a guest appearance on Valhalla, and he absolutely killed it. It was one of the best parts of that song, honestly. Forgot to mention in the main clip, but including it now, so back to the discussion. Inquisition was an interesting choice for an opening track. I don't know how I feel about that. The Barbara Ann cover was also really good. I'll admit I kind of laughed my ass off when I was listening to it, but overall it was good. I liked it. This was just such a good album. I really liked it. Can't wait for the next one. I swear, this band keeps getting better and better with each album. Holy crap. Like with Follow the Blind, this album takes everything that made the last album good and just expands upon it. They just keep getting better. Only this time, we're starting to see a lot more with the band. We're getting a lot more vocal layering. We're getting a lot more interesting guitar leads. The production, again, is taking a massive step up. Like, I love the way the drums on this album sound. It's so good. And the songs, oh my god, the songs are so good. Like, no joke, this might be the best batch of songs this band has written up to this point. Traveler in Time, Welcome to Dying, Lost in the Twilight World, Tommyknockers, The Last Candle, Lord of the Rings, oh my god, Lord of the Rings is so good. Like, I think this is like the first pure acoustic track they have on an album, and they knock it out of the park with that one, guys. Honestly, I don't know how they're going to top it, but no, come the next album, I'm probably going to be eating those words too, so cannot wait to see the next one. And they made me eat my words. Does the band just do this? Is this just a thing the band does? Just constantly one-up each album with the next album? Guys, this album was amazing. This was so... oh my god. Time, What is Time? Journey Through the Dark. Quest for Tanalarm. Ashes to Ashes. The Bard Song. Like, the Bard Song, guys. The Bard song, oh my god, both in the forest and The Hobbit. Like, how do you do that? By the way, whoever suggested the band to make the title track the closing number on this album deserves a raise. That was the best way to end this album, honestly. Yeah, another slam dunk for this band. I know I shouldn't say this because they're gonna do it, but how are they gonna top this? God, watch the next album suck. I've got nothing. This was perfection. Saying that this album is the best thing they've made at this point feels like it's too obvious of a statement, but here I am saying it. The production, best it's ever been. Hansi's voice, best it's ever been. Instrumentation, best it's ever been. The songs, what can I say about them? The title track, its chorus sent me into a state of euphoria the first time I heard it. The way Script for My Requiem transitions perfectly into Mordred's song is just, wow. Another Holy War is another Holy War, and the story ends. I didn't think they could top a perfect closer like Somewhere Far Beyond, but they did it. They fucking did it. So yeah, this might seem obvious at this point, but I think this is the best album they've made up to this point in their career. If there is one Blind Guardian album you need to listen to, it's this one. Well, that and... So, remember how at the beginning of this video I said that with the exception of one album, I had never heard any Blind Guardian before? Here's the exception. I first heard this album after my sister watched Lord of the Rings the first time, and going on a bit of a Tolkien kick, I decided to check this album out. And, like I mentioned earlier, I absolutely loved this album. I still love this album, honestly. I listened to this album all the time. When I was doing classwork, when I was going to the grocery, when I was just studying, when I was just doing nothing, it was always just this album. So needless to say, I very much love this album. But this kind of raises a question now, doesn't it? How can I do a first impressions of an album that I've heard so many times? And the answer is, I can't, not without it being totally disingenuous. So for Nightfall and Middle-earth, I'm doing something a little bit differently. Now that I've listened to all the early albums, from Battalions of Fear up to Imaginations, I decided to listen to this album with that in mind, that everything they did before was leading up to this moment. Before I checked out the early catalog, I didn't think anything was going to top this. I thought this was the best thing they would ever make. But now that I have listened to everything up to this point, I can now safely say that, yeah, this is still the best thing they've ever made. But it's really close. Imaginations from the Other Side nearly toppled that for me. But going back over this album again, I just had so much fun listening to it. Now, I've looked online and some people have problems with all the interlude tracks because there's 22 tracks on the album, 23 if you count the version I have. But out of those 22 tracks, only about 11 of them are actual songs, the rest are interludes. And some people don't like them. I am not some people, however. Honestly, I feel like it adds a whole lot to the atmosphere and the narrative, and I can't imagine the album without it. But okay. Interludes aside, how are the songs? It's Nightfall and Middle-earth. Do I need to go over the songs on this album? Into the Storm, Nightfall, Curse of Feanor, Blood Tears, Mirror Mirror, that song's a classic. Nodor, Time Stands Still, At the Iron Hill, Thorn, The Elder, that probably has Hansi's best vocal performance ever. Honestly, this album could suck, but as long as when Sorrow Sing is on this album, I would still love it. Don't really know what else I can say about this album other than it's just as good as everyone says it is. And like I said, best thing they've ever made. Though again though, Imaginations comes very close. Alright, so, back to the blind listens. So, this one was different. Their speed metal sound had been diminishing over the last couple of albums, but on this one, it's pretty much gone. There's a lot more emphasis on orchestral arrangements, choirs. It's definitely a lot slower. It's a lot more mid-tempo. And from what I gathered, people either really like that or they really hate that. Personally, I think I love this album. Yeah, okay, they're not nearly as fast as they used to be. And yeah, this album is quite a sit, but the songwriting is still there, and that's all that matters to me. Precious Jerusalem, Battlefield, Sadly Sings Destiny, The Soul Forged. And guys, and then there was silence. This might be the best song this band has ever written. Now, I do have some issues with it. It kind of is too overblown, maybe a little too grand. The production on here I wish could have also been a little better. It felt like at times like the orchestration was being drowned out by the guitars and stuff. But, you know, all that aside, this was great. I loved this thing. I gotta listen to this album again. I don't know if I can see them keep going in this direction though, and from what I've been told, that's kind of what they do. But you know what? We'll cross that bridge when we get there when it comes to the other albums. Can't wait for the next one. Yeah, I didn't really feel this one. But you know what? Considering we are now like, what, 7 albums into their catalog now? And the fact that we just now came across a record that I don't really feel? It's kind of impressive, don't you think? I mean, yeah, there's some good songs on here. This Will Never End, Turn the Page, Fly, Lionheart. Those are pretty good tracks. But outside of those ones, nothing really stood out to me. I think my issue with this album is that with every album we've gotten up to this point, there is like an evolution in sound. Whether it's an evolution you like is entirely up for debate. But each album had something different about it. This is the first album they've done where it just feels like it's a retread of previous albums. This feels like it's them trying to do Night at the Opera again. And while I like Night at the Opera, I kind of want something new as well. You know? So yeah, not a bad record, but not nearly as good. I think of all the records I've heard so far, this might actually be the weakest. Not bad, but not one I'll return to anytime soon. Here's hoping the next album will be better. Next album was better. No, hold on. Saying that this album was better than Twisted the Myth doesn't feel like it's enough. It may just be me still on the high of listening to it, because I just finished listening to it for the first time. Guys, I think this is better than Night at the Opera. It's the perfect mix of their old sound, like from Somewhere Far Beyond and Imaginations, and with the new orchestral symphonic sound like they started doing on Night at the Opera and continued on Twist in the Myth. Guys, this is what Twist in the Myth should have sounded like. The songs on this album, like, are so good. Like, Sacred World, Tanalarn, I guess they found their way again. Curse My Name, Right Into Obsession, Valkyries, Wheel of Time. That's one of the, oh my god. I don't know if it beats And Then There Was Silence as a closer, but this was a fantastic way to end the album. Again though, this might just be the bias right now, seeing as I just finished listening to it, so it's still fresh in my mind. But yeah, guys, this album was something special. This was great. Can they keep it going for the next one? Yeah, that was pretty good. I liked it. I think I liked At the Edge of Time just a little bit more. That album I felt like had more immediate songs, but yeah, the songs in this album were good too. The Ninth Wave, Twilight of the Gods, that song was just so good. The Holy Grail, The Throne, Grand Parade. What is with this band and giving us such good closing tracks? They have like nailed down to a science at this point. I do have issues with it. For starters, this album is way too long. Like, this is probably the longest album they've made at this point. An hour and 11 minutes. That is a set. And the other issue I have is the production. Like, the production on here I don't think is really that good. Everything's overly compressed. Everything kind of sounds flat, especially the drums. There's like zero dynamic range at all. It's pretty much just all one volume the entire time. And that's an issue I have. But overall, this was a good one. I enjoyed it. So, we have one more album after this, and from what I've been told, this next one is a unique one. Can't wait to get to it. Okay, so saying that this album is different from the rest of their catalog is probably the biggest understatement you can give. This album, it's an orchestral album. Literally the only member of Blind Guardian that's on here is Anzi. I guess that explains why they call it the Blind Guardian Twilight Orchestra instead of Blind Guardian proper. It's okay. That's good. It's got some great moments on it. I don't really see myself coming back to this one though. This is clearly just a little experiment they just wanted to try out, and there are moments that pay off. There are some that are like, okay, I guess. Once again, my biggest issue with this album is the production, and it wasn't really a hindrance for the previous albums. For this one, I think it is. Cool little experiment. Not sure if they'll do this. Not sure if I'll go back to something like this, but it's cool to know that exists. Blind Guardian. I approve. I've gone back and listened to the albums again, and I have some new thoughts on them. Follow the Blind was much better than I remembered it, and I liked it when I listened to it then. Somewhere Far Beyond is probably in my top 3 right now. I cannot decide if I like Imaginations from the Other Side or Nightfall, Middle Earth more. My Jets have cooled a little bit on At the Edge of Time. I still like it, but yeah, maybe I was a little too enthusiastic in my initial discussion of it. But yeah, guys, this was a journey. I absolutely loved it. I loved every second of it. If you guys want to get into this band, I would say start with Somewhere Far Beyond, Imaginations from the Other Side, Nightfall, Middle Earth, and Night at the Opera. If you like Somewhere Far Beyond more, check out more of the early stuff. If you like Night at the Opera more, check out the later albums. But at the very least, check out Imaginations and Middle Earth. Those albums are just perfection. I want to try this with some other albums, with other bands as well. I might deal with some bands, like, with discographies I'm more familiar with. I might deal with some that I'm not as familiar with. But, if that's something you guys want to see, just let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you guys next time. I don't really know how to end a video like this. Like, guys, how do I end